Now, you get that reading of War of the Worlds by me and much other original content if you support the show through my Patreon, patreon.com/George Galloway. We need your support if we're going to keep 2 shows a week going. And given the size of our audience, it would appear that many people do want us to continue. I had the pleasure of having lunch with Hassan Shami, the Lebanese entrepreneur and activist, just a few weeks ago in London. And then the next thing I saw him was very courageously bearding RFK Jr. on the issue of genocide in Gaza on television. I'm glad he's joined us again now. Hassan, welcome back to the mother of all talk shows. Let's talk about that first. Your encounter with RFK. How did you get so close, and how did you keep him there so long?
You know, George, thanks for having me again. I missed the day we had lunch. It was a great time. You know, I don't know how I got so close. I was just standing there amongst a couple of my peers, and he walked right in front of us, and I got his attention. And before I got there, I knew the question I was going to ask is about genocide. You know, do you consider this a genocide? And I noticed that I was holding his hand. When I was watching the video, I noticed I was holding his hand for so long, and I guess that's why he just stuck there. He stood there for quite a minute, but I guess he couldn't answer the question.
Well, you do have quite a strong grip, Hassan. You're quite a strong man. He probably couldn't get his hand away.
You know, I'm not sure if you saw that viral clip of him bench pressing with the shirt off a couple of years ago. So I think it was a good thing that I tested him a bit to show him, like, you know, there's other men out here.
Exactly. So tell me, what was summarize his reply? Because, you know, a lot of us, me included, would have loved to be able to support an independent presidential run by Robert Kennedy's son. I mean, it's the stuff that dreams are made of. But it became an absolute nightmare when the ugliness of his support for the worst Israelis in the world became more and more obvious, making it impossible. Summarize what he said back to you.
Yeah, he basically said it's not a genocide, it's a war. And so I kept pressing on the indiscriminate bombings and killings of innocent civilians, women, children. And he kept ignoring that. And he said he blames Hamas. And then he tried to bring up the Syrian war. He said, you know, there was like 500,000 or a million people dead in Syria. You know, is that a genocide? And I told him, well, the CIA, Mossad funded that for over 10 years. So it's quite a different proxy war out there compared to Palestine. And he just refused to answer. He just kept saying it's Hamas's fault, and he does not consider it a genocide.
So Trump and RFK and people who would never normally have got much of an audience in the state of Michigan have been drawing big crowds and have been obtaining endorsement. The mayor of Dearborn, for example, a city we both know and love well, has endorsed Trump. Jill Stein.
No, that's the mayor of Hamtramck.
Jill Stein is pulling tons of votes in the Dearborn area and Michigan in general. It seems to me on the face of it that whilst Kamala Harris is murdering the family members of hundreds of thousands of people in the state of Michigan, she can't possibly win it. Is she going to?
You know, right now we don't know, but I do. If you can excuse me, I just do want to clear this up for your audience. The Dearborn mayor, Abdullah Hammoud, has not endorsed anyone. He does not feel comfortable endorsing. He is a Democrat, but he does not feel comfortable endorsing Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. He just wants people to go out and vote their conscience. The Muslim majority city, Hamtramck, their mayor is who endorsed Donald Trump. So just to clear that up. But honestly, to be honest, George, I don't know who's going to win. It's looking like the most recent CARE polling said that majority of Muslims are split between Stein and Harris, and Trump coming in last. But we really don't know until election night. I can't really feel out the vibe in the city. There's a lot of people who don't want to vote. Many people, including myself, are voting Jill Stein. We're going third party, but we don't know how it's going to turn out.
Is there a big campaign going on? I mean, is it like a kind of general election you might get back in Lebanon? Is there a lot of buzz, a lot of noise? Or are people really not caring who gets it because it might not make any difference at all?
Look, there's a lot of buzz, but there's also a lot of confusion because, again, like every election, it's the lesser of two evils, and this time is during the genocide of our people, right? So there's a lot of people saying, you know what? I don't want to vote because I'm voting for evil regardless. I'm voting when I vote for either Kamala or Donald Trump, I got blood on my hands. And then there's others that are saying, listen, it can't get any worse. Like if you claim that Donald Trump is going to start World War III, you can't say that Kamala Harris isn't going down that path as well with what we've seen over the last year. So there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of buzz, a lot of noise, a lot of people trying to push people to go third party, go towards Trump. Not too many people are really talking about Kamala Harris. They're actually staying very quiet about it, except one individual in the community. But I guess we're just going to have to find out on Tuesday.
Yeah. Now, I was asking Professor Marandi earlier about things back in your parents' hometown of Lebanon. The danger there is that your ambassador, the American ambassador, is acting like a little Napoleon in Beirut. She's actually giving orders openly, like Victoria Nuland in Kiev. She's ordering Lebanese ministers on what they can do, who they can fly on their airplanes, what kind of aid they can accept from Iraq and elsewhere. Any kickback against that?
Yeah, that's absolutely ridiculous. They're realizing that Israel cannot win the war, and so they're trying to do everything from within with the politicians. And, you know, I just read today that she told them that you cannot fly the injured to different countries to get, you know, to get treatment at different hospitals. To me, it was mind-blowing. I mean, what kind of nonsense is that? But what they're trying to do is they're trying to stir up a civil war. They're trying to get the people to go against Hezbollah, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, of course, not for the want of trying, and it has happened before. I'm so old, I lived through the last Lebanese civil war, and a very gruesome thing it was too. It seems to me that if they can't win on the battlefield in the south of Lebanon, and that seems obviously the case now, that all they have left is to foment civil division and even civil war in Beirut and in the north on the foolish sectarian basis that they would actually like Lebanon to be broken up into ethno-religious principalities. You know, a Druze here, a Christian there, a Sunni there, a Shia there. That's the kind of Lebanon they would like.
Yeah, if there's ever time to do it, it's now. They've tried it in the past. It's been successful in the past. Lebanon's very sensitive right now, but we hope that they are not successful with that attempt, but we're going to continue to see it. And we've seen many traders within Lebanon who I consider Arab Zionists themselves, who are helping push this, push this narrative with their tweets, with what they're saying on their talk shows and whatnot. But we could just pray for, peace. We could pray for, to save the innocent civilians and stop the bombing and the complete destruction of Lebanon. And at the end of the day, it's in God's hands, right? So there's only so much we can do.
Well, lastly, Hassan, you talked about the third-party campaign of Dr. Jill Stein, who's an old friend of Gayatri and me. We love her dearly. She's done fantastically well. She's the only Jewish candidate in the race, ironically, and she's the only candidate in the race that is unequivocally against the Israeli mass murder of Muslim and Christian kids in Lebanon and in Gaza. How do you assess her campaign, her performances to date?
She's a humanitarian. It doesn't matter if she's Jewish, Muslim, Christian. She stands for what's right. I may disagree with some of her social progressive policies and whatnot, but at the end of the day, Palestine is what's important right now, Palestine and Lebanon. I think she's done a good job. Actually, I believe she's done a great job, but it's mostly her voice for Palestine and to end the war and calling it a genocide is what's gained her popularity. So I truly hope that she gets over 5% of the vote on a national scale.
Amin. Thank you, Hassan Shami, very much indeed for joining us. We look forward to lunch with you again soon, probably in Dearborn. Although, if Kamala Harris wins, I won't be welcome in the United States.